Butting heads is common for journalists and sports people, but things seem to spiral out of control as Dana White hurls cuss words at reporter Darren Rovell. We knew things got intense at UFC, but what went so wrong between these two that led us to this point? Luckily, we have all the insider details and timeline for this entire feud, and we're here to give you the lowdown. Stay tuned. First up, where it all began. Now, between sports commentators who think they know what they're talking about and the UFC president, there seems to be a competition between who's right. It looks like a case of inflated egos who won't back down from their respective stance. So, who's right and who's wrong? Technically, the drama started many years ago when UFC bantamweight champion Amanda Nunes successfully defeated Chris Cyborg and won the featherweight championship title at the UFC 232 event in 2018. Her win was preceded by her victory against champion Ronda Rousey in 2016, which meant that Amanda had dethroned two of the most well-revered fighters in women's MMA. Back then, reporter Darren Rovell wrote how defeating both these female fighters meant that UFC's image would take a massive hit, especially since Amanda didn't have the marketability the other two did. He even went on to say that Amanda herself had once mentioned that she wasn't the kind of MMA fighter that UFC usually promotes. While this was the opinion Darren held as an individual, judging from the track record of UFC history, it seemed to have rubbed the president, Dana White, the wrong way. He instantly clapped back at Darren at the 232nd UFC press conference, saying that stupid things are what makes you stand out sometimes. He even went on to forget the reporter's name, taking a second to recall, after which he continued to say that Darren's opinion was irrelevant because he didn't know anything about fighting. Next, fuel to fire. We thought the argument would have subsided after Dana got whatever he had to say off his chest, but boy were we wrong. As UFC 269 saw Amanda's defeat to Juliana Pena, Dana White took this opportunity to bring up Darren's name again and ridicule his tweets from 2018. At the post-fight press conference, Dana explained that a potential big-money fight between Amanda and Kayla Harrison wouldn't be taking place anymore. He reminded Darren that if Amanda had won her fight, she'd be part of a multi-million-dollar stake fight against Kayla, which wouldn't be possible if she wasn't marketable. While he was sharing his remarks against Darren, he once again seemingly forgot the reporter's name, taking a few seconds to refresh his memory before going on to hurling abuses at him and calling him a dip-s. Dana didn't waste time getting himself riled up when talking about Darren, and he advised him once again to stay out of their business since he didn't know what he was talking about. Darren response: fire with fire. As the UFC 269 press conference spread like wildfire across news channels and social media platforms alike, Darren got wind of the things being said against him and didn't waste any time giving Dana a shut-up call. Darren tweeted, indirectly taunting Dana for always pretending to forget his name when he was bothered enough to remember it very clearly. It was just a tactic to make him seem insignificant. The reporter further tweeted that he had data on his side instead of abusive words, which he would use to crush Dana any day. He went on to openly challenge him to a debate, saying name, time, and place. He further explained his perspective on Amanda Nunes' marketability, a remark that seemed to be taken out of proportion by the president. He cleared out his stance by mentioning that Amanda had garnered small collaborative deals during her reign as the champion, while if Rousey had a similar record, she'd be achieving much more. Although there's no response yet from the UFC president, we're intrigued to see whether this develops into another full-blown feud, or will it just die down in a couple of days. Stay tuned to find out what else is in store for UFC. Now, let's take a look at Amanda Nunes' career. Amanda Nunes has had an illustrious career with her women's bantamweight championship and current UFC featherweight championship. Despite her loss at the latest UFC 269, she took to the post-fight press conference to talk about how she knew that Juliana Pena would be a formidable opponent. She is the Venezuelan vixen after all. Even though she may have lost, Amanda reiterated that the fight was far from over. She mentioned that she's been training hard in private, working on a few new things as well, which she hopes she could master. She's planning to hit the gym and make her comeback to the octagon. However, she didn't explicitly mention if she was planning on a rematch with Pena or fighting another opponent to win back her bantamweight title. Next, UFC protocol under COVID-19. As 2021 reaches an end, Dana White takes an introspective look at the year UFC's had with their fights during a pandemic. Being hit with the coronavirus out of the blue caused worldwide panic as everyone tried their best to navigate through uncharted territory. Things were no different at UFC, where most of the promotions seem to have reached a halt as new rules and regulations have been being implemented since March 2020. Dana recalls his initial experience with the pandemic, stating that they faced a few obstacles with lack of testing, which led to an outbreak, but things were in control now. It took a lot of trial and error, but UFC had come a long way in achieving their goal of continuing fights and championships in a controlled and safe environment. Dana has governed UFC under very unpredictable circumstances, and he's done a great job of doing so. Dana signed on a contract extending his presidency of UFC for another 7 years, so we know he has no plans of stopping anytime soon. Moreover, as athletes worldwide have started their rounds of vaccination for increased safety, Dana came out with another controversial statement. He said that UFC isn't mandating vaccination for their fighters since he won't ever tell human beings what to do with their bodies. Whether they choose to get vaccinated or not is up to them. Next, words of wisdom for Khabib. Dana seems to be on a roll when it comes to handing out advice to everyone he possibly can. Once such person, Khabib Nurmagomedov, a former MMA fighter and current MMA promoter, was next on Dana's hit list. As Eagle FC gears up for their first U.S. show, Dana said during a post-fight press conference that he'd previously warned Khabib against the perils of being a promoter, but it was something he was going to have to learn for himself. He mentioned that if Khabib wanted advice, he'd be happy to help, but he would have to learn the hard way. Although seemingly trying to stay positive, his words don't necessarily exude wisdom and encouragement for the former fighter, who caught on to the president's tone and responded. Keeping things short and crisp, Khabib tweeted, "We all learn from you, Uncle," as he continues to prepare for their first show in Miami. Khabib has opened up about the big plans he has for Eagle FC, where he hopes there will be global representation, and he's going to introduce new weight classes for the fighters. Next up, Eagle FC versus UFC. While Khabib has denied any intentions to compete with UFC, it's no secret that there's an unspoken comparison between the two. As the undefeated champion prepares for his first fight as MMA promoter, he did leave a cryptic message for Dana White, as he tweeted, "If you don't know, now you know." While it's unclear what the former fighter means by this, it does seem like a possible jab at the UFC president, warning him against what's to come. With the changes Khabib wants to bring, including diversity and representation, fans are curious to see what the future holds for Eagle FC. There's no direct comparison between the two since UFC has been around for 30 years now, while Eagle FC is still a fetus, yet maybe a breath of fresh air is exactly what the world of MMA needs. Another former UFC star, Kevin Lee, has also joined the arsenal at Eagle FC, and we're excited to see what the first fight holds in store for Khabib's career as a promoter. Next, Derek Lewis makes a comeback. Derek Lewis takes the lead at number 1 after defeating Chris Daukaus during the first round, knocking him out. His fight concluded the final UFC Fight Night event of 2021, and we think things ended on a good note as he came out victorious. Lewis, who had previously suffered a significant loss at the hands of Cyril Gane in a heavyweight title fight in August, seems to have redeemed himself with his grand victory at Fight Night. After his win, Lewis threw his cup into the crowd, saying that it would be an NFT one day and he'd make a lot of money from it. Even though he may not have won the championship belt, he came out victorious as a knockout champion, which is a flawless victory in its own right. And that's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on the word vomit by Dana White? Should he have let sleeping dogs lie? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.